Once upon a time, in ancient Greece, there was a mystical creature known as Medusa, one of the three Gorgons. She was famous for her stunning beauty, but also for her deadly power. Her hair was made of venomous snakes, and anyone who met her gaze would turn into stone. According to legend, Medusa was born to Phorcys and Ceto, but some sources suggest that she was the daughter of Gorgon and Ceto. Regardless of her lineage, her power was feared by all who knew of her, and many brave warriors attempted to slay her. One of these brave warriors was Perseus, a legendary Greek hero. With the help of Athena and Hermes, Perseus was able to sneak up on Medusa while she was sleeping and behead her. He then used her head as a weapon, which still had the power to turn people to stone. Perseus eventually gave the head to the goddess Athena, who placed it on her shield as an evil-averting device known as the Gorgonian. This way, Medusa's power was harnessed for good and used to protect instead of harm. Medusa was believed to have lived and died near Sistine on the island of Sarpedon, according to some sources. However, others suggest an alternate location in Libya, where her myth was believed to have been originated by the Berbers as part of their religion. Despite the many variations in her story, Medusa remains one of the most well-known and captivating figures of Greek mythology, thanks to the intriguing details that have been passed down throughout the ages. In ancient Greece, the three Gorgon sisters, Medusa, Stheno, and Euryale, were known as monstrous beings, born to the chthonic monsters Phorcys and Ceto. However, as time went on, artists began depicting them as both beautiful and frightening creatures. Medusa, in particular, was often depicted as a beautiful maiden with a fair complexion. But one day, she made a grave mistake by desecrating Athena's temple. As punishment, the goddess Minerva turned Medusa's beautiful locks into snakes. Despite her new appearance, Medusa still held the power to turn anyone who gazed upon her into stone. This made her a feared creature among the people, and many brave heroes set out to slay her. One such hero was Perseus, who received help from the gods to accomplish this dangerous task. He was able to slay Medusa and obtain her head. Upon her death, two creatures sprang out of her body, Pegasus and Chrysaor. The Gorgonian, an image of Medusa's head, was considered a cult object in ancient Greece. While some references mention three Gorgon sisters, this was considered to be a secondary feature in their myth. Despite her fearsome reputation, Medusa remains a fascinating character in Greek mythology. Medusa was once a beautiful woman with glossy black hair cascading down her back like a waterfall. She was deeply in love with a young man named Poseidon, and they would often meet in the secret garden of the goddess, Athena. But one day, while they were together, Athena discovered them, and in her rage, she transformed Medusa into a monster with snake hair and a gaze that turned men to stone. For centuries, people have been fascinated by the terrifying creature that Medusa became. In Sigmund Freud's interpretation of Medusa's story, he suggests that the fear of her fierce stare is actually an expression of the anxiety of castration, linked to a boy's memory of his mother's genitals. According to Freud, sight of a woman's anatomy strikes fear in the hearts of boys who have been unaware of the danger of castration until that point. He argues that Medusa represents a mother remembered in a state of innocence before the reality of castration is fully realized. Despite Freud's interpretation, literary critics, such as Beth Selig, argue that Medusa's punishment of being transformed into a monster was a result of rape, rather than punishment for willingly acting on her desires in Athena's temple. This alternative interpretation provides a different aspect of the story, making Medusa an even more intriguing figure. The classic version of Medusa freezes male subjects in a mixture of lustful desire and terror of their father's retribution. Yet the different interpretations of her story continue to captivate and inspire people the world over, maintaining the unique allure of one of the most fascinating and complex figures in mythology. Once, Medusa was a beautiful priestess in Athena's temple. However, she caught the eye of Poseidon, and the two of them slept together in the temple. Outraged at the desecration of her temple, Athena punished Medusa by turning her into a Gorgon monster with snakes for hair, and any man who looked at her would turn into stone. However, feminists in the 20th century have looked at Medusa's story with a different lens. Instead of seeing her as a villain, they see her as a symbol of female rage and empowerment, rejecting the patriarchal viewpoint that made her into a monster. Medusa's story has inspired artists and activists alike, who see her as a representation of women's power and resistance in a society that has been historically male-centric. Some feminist scholars argue that Medusa's story is a rape narrative, and that she is a symbol of women who are punished for being sexual beings. Helene Sixus, a feminist theorist, has urged women to reclaim their identity by writing, empowering their bodies and language. Griselda Pollock analyses the passage from horrorism to compassion in the figure of the Medusa through Adriana Cavarero's philosophy and Bracha Ettinger's art and matrixial theory. One artist who has been inspired by Medusa's story is Judy Takis, a contemporary figurative artist. In her portrait, #MeToo, Takis portrays Medusa as a victim of rape victim blaming. Her painting returns Medusa's beauty and reclaims her as a symbol of female rage. In conclusion, Medusa is a powerful symbol of female rage, empowerment, and resistance. Her story has been reinterpreted by feminists in the 20th century, who see her as a victim of patriarchal society's views on women's sexuality. Medusa's story continues to inspire artists, writers, and activists, who use her as a symbol of women's power and resistance.
Do you want to explore more Greek mythology stories? Who do you want to see featured next? Subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know. I'll see you in the next video.